Hi, how are you? Hi there, my name is Jeff, and I'm recording a super important video um, posted on Facebook, and it's called Socionics Video Typing. It's a highly original title. Alright, anyway, there's a questionnaire with 4 questions, but it's really more like 40 questions disguised as 4 questions. So that's the first thing to know about me is I notice the details of things like that. Like the 4 questions are disguised as 40 questions. Okay, so I'm going to actually answer these questions somewhat seriously, as seriously as I ever get. Number 1 says, how did you get into typology? That's the first question of the first question. And I've answered this question several times on other videos, but since I'm making this video specifically for this particular project, I'm going to answer it again. I mean, if you want the long story, it goes back to when I was like 20 years old, and my mother got the book "Please Understand Me" by David Kersey, and had all 3 of her sons, including me, take the test that was in that book. But I didn't really get into typology then. That was just sort of my original introduction to it. But I never completely forgot about it. It was just sort of one of those back-of-the-mind things that, you know, I didn't really think much about. But if somebody brought it up, then I could remember that I did it, but it wasn't a big deal to me. And then, over time, I would see references to it online. There were different quizzes and things that would pop up on various websites, what's your personality and stuff, and some of them had nothing to do with, the Myers-Briggs types. Some of them were all sorts of other odd systems. At some point, I don't remember actually when, I actually bought a book called Personality Plus or something like that, I think. I think that was what it was called. Anyway, it was one that tried to, typed people by the old temperament system of like choleric and phlegmatic and that kind of stuff. And the funny thing I noticed about that one is that I came up almost half and half 2 of the different types that were in there, and from what I learned about Myers-Briggs later on, I understood, and Kersey's temperaments, why I would end up being sort of split, because the temperaments were divided all oddly. And there was one that was basically sort of like the feeling temperament, and then another one that was sort of like I guess would be like the SP. So, or I don't even remember why. It was one of those spur of the moment things that I bought the book. I just was like, hey, this looks interesting, and then, you know, I just kind of forgot about it, tossed it somewhere, and was like, whatever. But it came up over time in various things, and at one point I took the human metrics test, and I actually showed that to my coworkers and had them take it too. It didn't, highly unscientific is not the right word, but like highly biased or whatever, because I had them, I like asked them the questions all at the same time, and they gave me their answers, and I'm like, right. So they're all like, they weren't like accurate necessarily because they were like answering off each other and things like that. But it shows you how seriously I took it. And I don't actually know. It was 2008, and I do not remember what actually got me to. Again, it was probably just some link popped up on something about take a personality test. But why, out of all the times that those things came up, this time I hesitate to even say researched it. I dinked around online a little more than I usually did about the result of it. And I guess it just sort of hit me at the right time. It was one of those transitional periods, or what I call shift periods. I didn't used to call them that, but I didn't used to analyze my behavior at all. See, that's the thing, is all this typology stuff led me to analyzing my own behavior, which first like 30 plus years of my life I really didn't do. Which I know that always comes as a surprise to the intuitive types, because it's like they always, self-analysis is like such a natural thing to them, but to me it's not. Um, but anyway, I came up ISFP on this on the human metrics, or whatever the test it was that I did that time, and I actually like searched Google for information about the type, or not just like a type profile, but like, something. And anyway, what I meant by shift periods is like I usually will have one main interest for a certain period of time, and um, I'll go hardcore on whatever that particular interest is. It's not that I do nothing else, but it's really the main thing that sort of consumes me. Um, and like, for instance, now I'm doing something else, because like right now, lately the main thing I've been doing is watching old One Life to Live episodes. Um, and I'm taking a break from that, obviously, to do this. Now, the other thing I've been into is Facebook, and that is sort of an extension of something I've always been into, which is, just talking, talking to people, and specifically about myself. The more I talk about the subject is about me, the better it is. So that's why, being in the Facebook groups where people are like asking questions about me and saying record videos about yourself is all awesome to me, because I enjoy talking about myself. Um, so there you go. And I'm realizing now, looking at it, it's taken me like 7 minutes to answer the very first question, that there's no way I'm going to answer all these questions in 15 minutes or whatever the time prescribed is. But I'll probably skip a few questions, or just kind of like not elaborate as much on the other ones, because the second question in the first question will be real short. So anyway, to finish out the how did I get into typology thing, I actually search for forums, because whatever I'm interested in, I tend to look for internet forums to discuss whatever it is. So I just sort of, as a whim, like searched to see if there are actually forums that discuss like the personality types, and there were a few. There were a few. There are not a whole lot of people there, but there were enough that there was still, I was like, oh, I'll check this out. And originally, I probably would have only just read about that one day, and then again moved on to something else and forgot about it. But I happened to look at the forum, which then was called MBTI Central, since changed to Typology Central. But I looked at the section about my type, or the SP types in general, and there was a post or a thread that said something about why aren't there very many SPs here. And something about seeing that made me think, oh, well, I could join this forum, and then, automatically I'm like, there's something unique about me here. I've got sort of a niche to, draw attention to myself. So that's what I did. And by doing that, and again, not really doing anything other than just like answering questions about myself and just expressing my natural feelings about things, I got a lot of attention, a whole lot of feedback. People, they had this, they had this system that was like, they called reputation comments. I got tons of those, people responding, replies to posts and stuff. And I posted quite a bit and participated in stuff, related to that forum, joined voice chats, things like that. So in the course of that, somebody told me there was a sequel to Please Understand Me. There was a Please Understand Me 2. And so I bought that book. I read it. I was amazed at like how accurate a lot of the stuff about, the artisan type in general was about me. It was pretty amazing to have something that was like had written down like the reasons why I do things, or the motivations for things about me, that were like stuff I never had really talked about with anybody before. I never like said, oh, here's why I do this, or here's the primary motivations in my life. I didn't talk about that kind of stuff. I didn't really even think about it that much. And so to read that expressed in writing, all these things like what leads to your self-esteem, and what do you yearn for, and all these things, like that was all new to me, but it was true. Like the specific examples of some of the occupations or other things about the different famous SPs or other people had done, those weren't necessarily accurate about me, but all of the main points of like what forms the type, what makes up SPs was true. And so, I started to see some validity in it, and not even just about myself, but about other people when I thought about what types they were, and I you know, thought about, well, what motivates them and what gives them self-esteem and stuff. Not only did I think about it, people I already knew or already was pretty sure their type, um, there were people that I knew where I would sort of try out, or I would kind of float the buzzwords and the things from the book to see what they responded to, and it was remarkable how um, reliably people would respond. Like once I would, figure out somebody probably is an SJ Cardian type, when I said the things that, were kind of like their motivating factors, I would get a positive response from it. So it was like I started to kind of test these things, at first just for the fun of it. But as I started to do it more, I realized, hey, this actually helps me with like practical stuff, with communication with people, with understanding of them, and even people understanding me better. I got better at explaining myself to people that aren't as much like me. So that was really how you could say I got into it. It was a gradual thing over time, but there were a lot of like kind of factors that led me to and for a while there, it was like it became my main interest, and then that died down, and I got into something else. But um, it was that for a while, and I didn't completely drop it. Even when I moved on to something, it's like because it was the first interest of mine that really sort of had this kind of overhanging relation to everything else I did. So that's why I guess I can say that I didn't like drop it completely, because um, it wasn't something. It was just, oh, I don't have any interest in that anymore, because it never completely went away. Like there were things in my life that would pop up where there was some relation to it. I would see the patterns of people, and it's not something that I could just forget about. And I didn't really want to, because overall it helps me. So that was a really long-winded, convoluted answer to that question, but sometimes I'm inspired. Um, the second part of question 1 says, what interested you about psychology? The answer to that is nothing. I've never been interested in psychology, and I'm still not. So there's a short answer for you. In fact, I don't trust so-called psychologists. I used to say psychology was a fake profession. I don't always say it that harshly anymore, but still in general, I don't trust people. I don't trust people, period, but I especially don't trust people who claim that they know what somebody is thinking, or they understand people's mental process as well. I am skeptical that anyone can understand as well as some people claim to, and I don't care how much school you go to or what fancy degrees you have up on your wall, what training you think you have. People are still people. They're individuals, and you can't really know everything about them. I think there are things that you can know from people. You can, like I said, you can pick up patterns. You can see people respond to certain things. And there's even been, scientific experiments where they, look at people's brains as they react to different things. There's things that you can see, but in general, I think most of what's called psychology is a huge waste of time. And that's all I'll say about that, to keep it a little shorter. Number 2, what do you do for a living? I'm an office manager for a quick service restaurant franchise that owns 24 restaurants. It says, what do you do for a college degree? I didn't get a college degree. I did go to college, but I dropped out before getting a degree. Do you like your job? Yes, I have to say, if it's just a straight up yes or no question, yes, I do like my job. There's certainly things about it I would change. It's not perfect. There's things that happen that I don't like at my job. I would prefer to not actually have to go into the office and do anything. I would prefer to just get a paycheck for goofing off. And some would say that I do, but not entirely. The fact that I actually have to go to the office, and in fact lately they've even cracked down about me actually trying to show up close to on time, which for a long time wasn't really, a requirement, but lately it has been. So that's something I don't particularly like. But overall, I like my job. Is there something you'd prefer to be doing? Of course. Uh, oh, hundreds, if not thousands, of things I'd prefer to be doing. Um, in general, I'm pretty lazy, so if I could just like lie around dinking around on the internet, which is what I do most of my spare time, if I could just get paid for that, that would probably be actually the ideal job. Um, but if I actually was going to do something, you know, um, there's all sorts of things within the entertainment community that I'd love to do. I'd love to have my own talk show or make movies or you know uh, write songs, write for television. Um, love to be like a comedian or like a traveling showman of some sort. Um, I'd love to get paid for like doing like a travel show where I went around to like all the baseball stadiums in America and ate the food and tried different things and recorded that. I'd do like man on the street interviews or like you know politics, but like in a goofy way, like a humorous thing. Like Michael Moore before he lost all his sense of humor, like when he did that show TV Nation. Um, something like that would be fun. Um, so there's all sorts of dreams I have about things I could do. Realistically, I'm in a pretty darn good position for considering the amount of actual work I do versus get how much I get paid. So I'm not complaining at all about my job. But is there something I prefer to be doing? Sure. And the next question says why? Well, why? Because there's things I could do that would be more fun. That I would get a bigger thrill out of. The best thing about my job is the people. Other than the fact that there's not much work required, the other thing that's good about it is getting to talk to people and having the variety of people that I see every day, and just having the opportunity just to interact with people in a fun way when I'm not actually having to do work that much. And even when I do work, I can still talk to people somewhat. What are you like when doing your job? And are you much different at home? Those are sort of related, so I'll stuff them together so I can not make this video take for the rest of time. Am I like at my job, and is it different than home? I would say the only difference really is that I'm not quite as emotionally expressive when I do my job. Now, I still am, but I kind of keep some of that in check. I was just talking about this earlier today on one of the Facebook groups because I don't want people to think I'm a freak, because people tend to make those assumptions when you really, okay, when I express myself fully in terms of my complete and total reactions to things. If I act excited emotionally like I do about things, then if I did that about everything at work, then it could cause some problems because most of the people I work with, really all the people I work with, are not as much that way. Now really in my office there's only one other feeling type that's in the office. So it's a lot of T's, it's a lot of thinking types, it's a lot of people that it's not that they don't ever express emotions, but they just don't emote the way that I do. Honestly, like, I see something cool and my reaction, if I just let it out, is kind of a, kind of a, just like a total, like, just spontaneous reaction like that. Whereas, I could do that once in my office and it would be a thing where, like, people are like, is he okay? But even people who have known me a while, I have still kept some of my genuine reaction to things back because it's just better for various reasons to do that. But I still react to things. Like I just tend to hide it. Like when I'm facing my computer, which is away from everybody else, like facing the other way, I can be listening to like Casey Kasem countdown with a long distance dedication, and I can be crying because I'm listening to it, and I just face the computer and I don't turn so that nobody knows that I'm crying, and then I try to wipe my eyes before I turn around so that that's not something that gets out. So there's things like that where, I kind of hold back certain elements of my personality because, I'm total emo and I don't want everybody to know that. Although, over time, people I've worked with have sort of gotten to know that side of me anyway, but maybe not, but not fully. And so at home, at home, it's just my son and I that live at home, son and me, whatever the, right grammar is. But and I never tried to hide myself from him or disguise myself in any way. He knows the full on me, and that's why he calls me emo, calls me a girl, calls me, stupid, whatever thing he feels like pulling out um, this particular day. Because I do stuff at home, like I sing random songs and all the things that I like doing, and just being goofy and just without the kind of filter that I have at work. So that's really the only difference. I mean, at home I'm more relaxed and I'm more, I'm usually doing what I enjoy doing within the confines where I am. So that's not always the case at work. Um, Number 3 says, what aspects of your life are you especially good with? What do you feel that you're especially bad at? Okay, that's kind of an odd phrasing to that question, but I'll just say I'm good at being impulsive and spontaneous and lazy. If you consider that being good, I'm usually good at making people smile and laugh, and I'm good at buying people lunch and taking them to movies and uh, giving hugs. I'm good at hugs. I'm good at identifying kind of name that tune type of stuff, music chart trivia and presidential trivia and things like that. A lot of facts about certain things that I know. Have a lot of knowledge in. Then there's areas where I don't know anything. So it's like I can seem like an encyclopedia on some subjects and then can be completely oblivious on all kinds of other things. So I'm not necessarily the go-to guy for pop culture, because if it's something that I haven't paid attention to, then I don't know anything about it. I am not one of those people that like knows a little bit about everything. I'm more like I know a lot of stuff about certain things and virtually nothing about everything else. So, and I don't care that I do. Like I don't have any desire to know like a little bit about everything. There's things that I don't care if I ever know, which is I think what tends to separate me from the NTs is this kind of perpetual need to know things or gather all this knowledge. I don't really have that. I think it's some people already say I have too much in my head. They might be right. I don't know, but I gather the information that I need to have fun, and I don't worry about and be a father. I care about being a father. I just even that, it's like the main thing that I've tried to do is beyond just make sure he has his basic needs met. Just tried to be there for him and give him fun things to do, opportunities and stuff. So I've been good at that, I think, giving him plenty of opportunities. What do you feel you're especially bad at? Being on time to anything. Keeping a video that was said to be 15-20 minutes into a 15-20 minute period. Bad at that. Cleaning things, keeping things clean. This apartment is a bloody mess. Um, what else am I bad at? Knowing like the right small talk to say to strangers. Like I'm good at talking, but I'm not really good at like initiating conversations with people I don't know because I don't really know what to say. Um, except for kids. Like I'm good with kids. That's another thing I'm good at. I love kids. They love me. Pretty much across the board. I mean, every once in a while there's a kid that for some reason we don't connect. But for the most part, it takes me like almost no time to like just get into the kids' world, and I like being there. I prefer to be there probably than the so-called adult world. Um, what else am I bad at? Singing. I mean, I'm not terrible, but I didn't really keep up. I was in choir when I was a kid, and I didn't really keep up like training my voice. So when it changed, it's not that good. Um, yeah, anything that requires like effort of any kind, I'm not real good at that. Not good at like fixing things, or I'm not good at mechanical stuff. I'm not good. Computers, I know what I need to get the things that I want done, but if something goes wrong, I don't have a clue. So I'm not good at like technology aspects. Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of other things I'm bad at, but I'm gonna cut it off at that, just in the interest of not having this video be 400 years. Um, what have you done to draw admiration or criticism from others? That's another one I could go on for a really long time about, but it kind of just relates to what I said already in terms of admiration. It's usually about me being funny or entertaining in various ways. There's people that have given me compliments or admiration for just the fact that I'm a single dad and that I like you know took care of my son. Because obviously there's some deadbeat dads that don't do that. Um, you know, when I talk about him, there's some people, especially women, that for whatever reason they take that time to point out that that there's a lot of men out there that haven't done that, haven't taken responsibility for their children and stuff like that. So I guess I've gotten some admiration for that. Criticism, mostly the stuff I said already. My laziness, not getting things done, not being on time, not. Um, Sometimes people say I take things too literally. I've been criticized for not being helpful enough in certain situations, like not volunteering to help somebody with something that they didn't ask me for. Um, I like to give gifts and things like that. I like to give things to people, but there's things that some people have criticized me for not like figuring out that somebody needed something and doing it for them, stuff like that. Um, I'm not a mind reader and I don't pretend to be, so I don't necessarily always pick up clues of what somebody needs. What I tend to provide to people is more like diversions and escapes from things rather than a much practical help. Although I mean I can help with some things, but again you gotta spell it out for me. What sort of environment would you feel most at home in? Um, Man, like I said, it's something where I can entertain people, or on the road. I love driving on the highway, traveling in general. Though I'm not real big on flying, but I don't mind flying if it's not real long. I don't like the actual like taking off and landing, but other than that, I like traveling. I like driving. I like new places. I like um, environments where things are relaxed and there's not expectations from, I don't like obligations. I don't like being tied down to anything. I don't like, um, being expected to do certain things. So environments where, again, I go back to what David Kersey said, but I always thought it was so good. He said the next action is a free variable was his like really broad definition for the word art, why he called SPs artisans. Um, and to me, that's perfect. That's the environment I'm most comfortable in, or most at home in, is one where that's exactly the case. I can do whatever I want in the next moment, and there's opportunities to do stuff that's fun. That's pretty much the bottom line on that. And the next thing says, describe its atmosphere and surrounding its inhabitants, the conversations or lack thereof, the philosophy of this ideal environment. I think I already kind of did that. So I mean, maybe not in great detail, but we're up to almost 30 minutes with this, so I'm, I guess, going to go ahead and end this. But yeah, anything where I can like, get in there and do something fun and entertaining and make people laugh and laugh with them, and you know, that's my ideal. Um, Being able to go with the flow and just create stuff and improv. Improvisation's always been my favorite thing. Even when I was a little kid, I would make up songs, make up stories. Um, when I had a son, when I told him bedtime stories, I didn't usually read from books. His grandmother did that, my mother. I would usually make up my own stories, and I would just incorporate things in the room. Start using his stuffed animals. I'd usually start with one of his stuffed animals, and then it'd be like Once Upon a Time, Clifford was on his way to the store, and then he saw the, and I'd see other stuff in the room and just use that and just incorporate it into the story, and then I'd always have sort of a punchline, you know, some kind of goofy thing would happen or something where, and they would end really abruptly. And then of course when he was late getting to bed, I did like the shortest bedtime story ever, which was Once Upon a Time, the end. So now that's the end of this video. So analyze it as you will, and I'll look forward to reading whatever is said about it, because anything about me is always worth reading, even if it's way wrong. I might argue with it, but it'll still be good because it's about me. So see you next time.